Nabitter? The weekend my brother announced his engagement to a woman he'd met 4 months earlier on a cruise ship. I knew exactly how it would end. Not because I'm cynical, because I'd seen this movie before. Different cast, same script, same bill at the end, always sent to me. My name is Elise. I'm 31 years old. I work as a forensic accountant for a mid-size firm in Portland, Oregon. I find fraud for a living. I trace money through shell companies and falsified invoices and accounts that shouldn't exist. I'm good at my job. And the cruelest irony of my life is that the people who raised me knew that, and they used it against me for years. My brother Theo is 36. He has never held a job for longer than 14 months. He moves through the world with this breezy confidence that I used to envy and now recognize as the specific armor of someone who has always had someone else cleaning up behind him. Our parents, my mother especially, have always protected him from consequences the way you'd shield a flame from wind. Cupped hands, constant vigilance. And whenever the flame still nearly went out, they called me. His fiancée was named Katarina. She was Serbian, 28, stunning in a way that made you forget to ask follow-up questions. She had an accent and a laugh and a story about her grandfather's vineyard outside Belgrade, and my mother was completely, hopelessly gone within 3 hours of meeting her. I sat at that dinner table, watching my mother pour another glass of wine she couldn't afford and laugh too loudly at jokes she barely understood. And I thought, this is going to cost someone money. I already knew it would be me. The wedding was set for late September in Dubrovnik, Croatia. Because of course it was. Katarina wanted to get married somewhere that looked like a movie, and Theo wanted whatever Katarina wanted, and my parents wanted whatever made them feel like the kind of family that goes to Croatia for weddings. I was the only one at the table running the numbers in my head. Flights, hotel. The exchange rate? My father had been on disability since his back surgery 18 months ago. My mother did part-time bookkeeping for a pediatric dentist. Theo was between jobs, which was another way of saying he was unemployed and had been for 7 months. I flew back to Portland that Sunday and told myself it wasn't my problem. I was almost right. For the next 6 months, I watched it unfold through my phone like a slow-motion car accident. My mother's Instagram went from photos of her garden to photos of Croatian venue tours. Katarina had a wedding planner. The planner had a preferred vendor list. My brother texted me in April to ask if I knew anything about destination wedding financing, which is not a thing that exists, and I told him so. He sent back a thumbs-up emoji and didn't mention it again. I did not go. I had a deposition scheduled, I told them. Technically true. Also, I could not watch. I had seen my father cry at my college graduation and say he was proud of me, and then ask on the drive home if I could help them with the mortgage that month. I had seen my mother frame a photo of Theo shaking hands with a man he barely knew at some networking event and put it on the mantle like he'd won a Pulitzer. I was not going to fly to Croatia to be the invisible responsible one at a party thrown entirely for people who had never once considered my feelings. I wished them well. I sent a gift from their registry. I set my phone to Do Not Disturb at 9 p.m., the Friday of the wedding weekend, and I went to sleep feeling not happy exactly, but clean, like I had finally, for once, held the line. I woke up at 4:06 a.m. to 47 missed calls. For a second, I thought someone had died. That's the only rational explanation for 47 missed calls. Someone has died or something has exploded or the building is on fire. I sat up in the dark and the first thing I noticed was that my hands were trembling before I'd even processed what I was looking at. The breakdown on my lock screen. My mother, 19 calls. My father, 14 calls. Theo, 9 calls. Katarina's mother, who I had met exactly once, 5 calls. The texts were worse. A wall of them. Pick up. Elise, please. Emergency. Elise, please call us. Theo needs you. We need you. It's bad. I called my father. He answered mid-ring. Elise. His voice was stripped of everything. No register. No warmth. Just a flat, panicked hum like a wire pulled too tight. Behind him, I could hear shouting in Croatian, a woman sobbing, and something that sounded like breaking glass. Dad, tell me what happened. Is anyone hurt? Not physically. He exhaled. It sounded like a wheeze. Katarina's family. They found out something about Theo. Before the reception even started, her father stood up and said, he said things about Theo in front of everyone. Her brother got involved. There was a confrontation. Theo said some things back and a table got flipped. The venue is holding us liable for 2 broken chairs and a damaged sound system and a catering deposit they're refusing to return because of the disturbance. And Elise, his voice cracked. They've called the local police. They have Theo in a back room. They're saying if we don't pay for the damages tonight, they will press charges. Tonight, right now. I sat in my dark bedroom and I breathed through my nose. What did Katerina's father find out about Theo? Silence. Dad, it doesn't matter right now. What matters is, it matters to me. What did he find out? A long pause. Then, very quietly, about the lawsuit in Phoenix. I closed my eyes. 2 years ago, Theo had been involved in some kind of property dispute with a business partner. I knew it had gone badly. I didn't know the details because Theo never told me details, and my parents had that way of mentioning something serious and then pivoting immediately to whether I wanted more pot roast. How bad is the lawsuit? There was a judgment against him. He owes a significant amount. Katerina's family did a background check after the engagement and they found it, and they didn't say anything because he stopped. Because they were hoping Theo's family had money. I said it flatly. It wasn't a question. More silence. How much are the damages, Dad? The venue is saying $18,000. Between the sound equipment and the catering contract and the chairs and $18,000. Kuna and euros, but yes, approximately. I don't have $18,000 sitting in an account I can wire to Croatia at 4 a.m., Dad. I got up and walked to my kitchen. My feet were cold on the tile. Use your credit card, the one you used to book the hotel. And there it was. The pause that meant something. Not a thinking pause, an avoiding pause. Dad, what credit card did you use to book the hotel? Elise, listen, which card? He said my name again, softer this time, the way he used to when I was 7 and had fallen off my bike, and he was trying to get me to stop crying before he looked at the damage. Elise, sweetheart, we didn't have the available credit. You know our situation. We tried to book everything on points, but the transfer didn't go through, and we needed a guaranteed reservation, and your mother thought, we thought you have such good credit, you'd never even notice a hotel charge. We were going to pay it off before the statement you used my credit card just for the hotel without asking me. You would have said no. My mother's voice cut in from somewhere behind him, thin and frantic. She'd been listening. You always say no. You would have given us a lecture about budgeting and we just needed the reservation, Elise. We just needed it to work. I walked to my laptop. I opened it standing at the counter. I logged into my credit monitoring service with the particular calm that comes after shock burns through and leaves something colder behind. The dashboard loaded. I hadn't checked it in 3 weeks. There were 4 alerts. 4. The first was the hotel in Dubrovnik, the Grand Orsini. 4 nights, $3,200. Booked in my name 6 weeks ago. The second was a flight. 2 round-trip business class tickets, Portland to Dubrovnik via Frankfurt, $4,800. Booked in my name. I had never agreed to business class. I had never agreed to any of this. The third was a car rental. A week-long hire from a company in Split, $890 my name. My card, my credit score used as the guarantee. The fourth stopped my breathing for a moment. It wasn't a transaction, it was an account. A new line of credit opened 11 days ago through a Croatian bank's international partner portal. The inquiry had originated from an IP address in Illinois, my parents' house. The account was in my name. The balance was $9,400. The stated purpose on the application was travel and event expenses. They had opened a line of credit in my name, not charged my card, not borrowed my card number. They had used my social security number, my date of birth, my address, my employment information, all of which my mother had access to from years of helping me with insurance paperwork to open an entirely new account. And then they had spent $9,000 of it. I stood in my kitchen at 4:22 in the morning and I felt something shift in my chest, not break. Shift, the way a fault line moves, silent, structural, permanent. Mom, I said. My voice didn't shake. I was almost surprised. Did you open a line of credit in my name? The silence on the other end was a different quality than before. Dense. Guilty. We needed the cushion, she said finally. In case something went wrong, we were going to pay it back, Elise, the whole thing. Katerina's family was supposed to be contributing to the wedding costs, and then they backed out last minute, and we were already committed, and we couldn't cancel without losing everything. You committed identity fraud. I said it the same way I'd say the Q3 numbers are off. Even. Precise. You opened a financial account in my name without my knowledge or consent. That is a federal crime. Elise, my father started. The hotel, the flights, the car rental, the line of credit, all of it is in my name. I was pulling up the full statements now, screenshots, downloading PDFs. My forensic brain had taken over. Document everything. Preserve the chain of evidence. If I don't address this tonight, the Croatian venue will pursue the debt against that line of credit, the line of credit that is in my name. You have put me legally on the hook for $18,000 in damages at a wedding I did not attend. My mother started crying. Real crying, not performed crying. I know the difference by now. We are your family. We are stuck in a foreign country. Your brother could go to jail, Elise. Croatian jail. Do you understand what that means? He needs you. I need you. Just wire the money. We will spend the rest of our lives paying you back. You've said that before. I clicked the icon to freeze my credit at the first bureau. You said that when I paid Paul's. I'm sorry, when I paid Theo's security deposit in 2019. You said it when I covered Mom's dental surgery. You said it when Dad needed the transmission replaced and the check bounced. I moved to the second bureau. Froze it. You have never paid me back. Not once. Not a single dollar. This is different, it's not. I moved to the third bureau. Nothing about this is different. The venue is different. The country is different. The amount is larger, but the mechanics are identical. I took a breath. I'm going to ask you to put someone from the venue on the phone, or someone from the local police if they're there. Why? My father's voice went sharp with alarm. Elise, what are you doing? I'm protecting myself, the same way you should have protected me. There was arguing on the other end. Muffled voices, my mother hissing something I couldn't make out, my father's breathing ragged and close. Then a new voice, male, accented, professional. Hello, this is manager Luca Horvat of Belvedere Grand Venue. You are the card holder. We need to confirm the payment for Mr. Horvat, I said. My name is Elise Carmody. I am calling from Portland, Oregon in the United States. I'm a forensic accountant and I need you to listen carefully. I pulled up my passport scan from my secure files folder. I did not sign any contract with your venue. I did not authorize any charges. The accounts used to guarantee this event were opened in my name without my knowledge or consent. I have documentation of the fraud. I am currently in the process of filing reports with the Federal Trade Commission, my bank's fraud department, and the 3 major credit bureaus. Sonora, the contract, was signed fraudulently. I have not left the United States in 14 months. My passport stamps will verify this. The signature on any contract bearing my name is a forgery. I kept my voice flat. Informational. I understand you have a legitimate damage claim. I am telling you that the person who owes you that money is my brother Theodore Carmody, who is currently in your custody. I am not responsible for his debts or his behavior. If you pursue the debt against my name, I will dispute it, and the documentation I have will support that dispute entirely. There was a long pause. Then, I understand. We will need to speak with your brother directly. That sounds right, I said. I'm sorry for the disruption to your venue. I hung up. My phone rang immediately. I let it ring. I called the 24-hour fraud line for my bank and spent 40 minutes walking through each transaction, the hotel, the flights, the car rental, and especially the line of credit. The representative was thorough. She flagged everything. She escalated the credit account to their identity theft team and told me I'd have a case number within the hour. By the time I finished, the sky outside my kitchen window had turned that particular gray that isn't quite dawn yet. The city was quiet. I made coffee and sat at my counter with both hands wrapped around the mug, and I let myself feel it. All of it, the full weight of what had just happened. Not the fraud. I could handle the fraud. I handled the fraud professionally. What I felt was something harder to name. The specific grief of realizing that the people who should have protected you have spent decades studying your vulnerabilities so they could use them more efficiently. My phone was still going, texts flooding in now, cousins, my aunt, a family friend I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. How could you? Your mother is devastated. Theo could have a criminal record. You're really going to let your family rot in Croatia? I read them the way I read hostile deposition notes, dispassionately, looking for information, finding very little. I did not block them that morning. I did something I think was actually harder. I wrote one message and sent it to every single person who had texted me, my parents, my brother, the cousins, the aunt, the family friend. Short, no anger in it, just the facts. I discovered tonight that accounts were opened in my name without my consent, totaling approximately $18,000 in combined charges and credit. I have reported this to my bank and the credit bureaus and am beginning the dispute process. I am not able to and will not be covering these costs. If anyone has questions about why this happened, please direct them to Theo, Mom, and Dad. I wish everyone safe travels home. I put my phone face down on the counter. Here is what I know happened after, because some of it filtered back to me over the following weeks, whether I wanted it to or not. The venue worked out a payment arrangement with Theo directly, a portion of damages up front, the rest over time, backed by a statement from Katarina's family, who, despite everything, did not want an international criminal incident attached to their daughter's disaster of a wedding. Theo and Katarina did not get married. The ceremony never happened. She left the same night, according to my cousin who told me this, like she expected it to hurt. It didn't. My parents flew home 4 days later on a rebooked flight they paid for themselves, which I mention only because it proved it was possible. The fraudulent line of credit took 62 days to fully remove from my credit profile. My score dipped 11 points during that period and recovered. My bank refunded the hotel and flights as unauthorized charges. The car rental company was harder. That took a formal dispute letter and a copy of my passport stamps and 6 weeks of back and forth. But it resolved. What hasn't resolved is the question I sat with all through that gray Portland morning, drinking my coffee and listening to the city wake up. Not why did they do it? I know why. Because they believed I would fix it. Because I had always fixed it. Because somewhere in the architecture of our family, a role had been assigned to me before I was old enough to refuse it, and I had played it so consistently and so well that they had stopped being able to imagine any other outcome. The question was, how many times had I let them believe that? I didn't call my parents for 4 months. When I did, it was brief, civil. I told my mother I loved her because I do, in the complicated, excavated way you love people who have hurt you without ever meaning to, people who convinced themselves that using you was the same as needing you. She cried. I didn't. I told her that if she ever accessed my financial information again, for any reason, I would press charges, not as a threat. As information, the way I give information at work, clearly, without drama, so there's no ambiguity later about what was communicated. She said she understood. I don't know if she did. That's the thing about people who've spent a lifetime reframing exploitation as love. Understanding looks the same as compliance from the outside, and you can't always tell which one you're getting until the next time something goes wrong. I've set up alerts now on every account. Every single one. Any transaction over $50 triggers a notification to my phone. It takes about 40 seconds a day to review them. 40 seconds is a small price for the particular peace of mind that comes from knowing that the only person who can touch my financial life is me. I still have the coffee mug I was holding that morning. It's white with a small chip on the handle from when I set it down too hard on the counter at some point during the fraud calls. I keep it in the back of my cabinet. Sometimes I use it on difficult mornings when I need to remember that I have, in fact, survived the worst version of the thing I was afraid of. It tasted like clarity. It tasted like the first morning of something I didn't have a name for yet. I think the name might be free. I've thought a lot about the word family since that morning, what it actually means versus what we're told it means, because there's a version of family that's real. People who show up, who tell you the truth, who would never in a million years forge your signature on a financial document because they figured you'd never notice. And then there's the version I grew up with, which looked like family from the outside but functioned more like a system. A system where one person generates stability and everyone else draws from it, and the drawing is never called what it is. What happened with Theo in Croatia wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. Someone accidentally forgets to return your umbrella. Someone accidentally misreads a date and double books a dinner. What my parents did, researching my credit score, pulling my social security number from old insurance paperwork, filling out a loan application in my name, spending $9,000. That's not an accident, that's a plan. And plans have architects. I spent a long time being angry about the fraud itself. The 11-point credit dip, the 62 days of dispute letters, the car rental company that took 6 weeks to acknowledge I had never set foot in Croatia. All of that was real, and all of it was exhausting. But the anger that sat the longest, the one that didn't dissolve once the accounts were cleared, was about something quieter. It was about how well they knew me. They knew I would feel guilty. They knew I would hesitate. They knew the exact pressure points. Theo could go to jail, Croatian jail, that had the highest probability of making me open my laptop and wire the money before I was fully awake. They had studied me. And what they had learned about me, they used. That's the thing nobody talks about when they talk about toxic family dynamics. It's not that these people don't know you, it's that they know you completely, and they use that knowledge in the direction of extraction rather than protection. The intimacy is real. The leverage built from it is also real, and for a long time I confused being known with being loved because I didn't understand that those are two entirely separate things. What I did that morning, logging into the fraud portal, calling the venue manager, filing the reports, writing that one calm text to everyone, none of it felt brave in the moment. It felt like accounting. Like I was finally doing the honest version of the math I had been fudging for 30 years, rounding down the cost to myself so the numbers would balance for everyone else. Elise, the forensic accountant, finally applied her own skills to her own life. That's the sentence, if there is one. I don't think the people who hurt us always need to be villains to have done damage. My parents are not evil. They are people who were scared, who were in over their heads, who made choices they could rationalize in the moment because they convinced themselves the harm wasn't real if the person being harmed could absorb it. That's not evil. It's something almost sadder. It's people who never developed the moral muscle to sit with discomfort that they could instead transfer to someone else. But understanding that doesn't mean absorbing it indefinitely. Compassion and liability are not the same thing. I can feel both sad for who they are and clear-eyed about what they cost me. Those two things can live in the same chest without one canceling the other out. The credit alerts took me 40 seconds a day to review. 40 seconds. I set them up the morning after everything happened. Still in the same clothes I'd been wearing when the call started, cold coffee on the counter, eyes that felt like sandpaper. 40 seconds a day, and I will never again wake up to discover that my name has been used to build someone else's life. That's the only lesson I know how to offer. Not a grand one, just that one. Protect the thing you built. Even, especially from the people who think your stability is a shared resource simply because they watched you build it.